Hello, welcome to another episode of Pollyanna Talks. Today I thought I would talk about things that I've learned through somatic therapy. I have done 6 sessions now, one every fortnight, so it's been 3 months. If you're not familiar with it, somatic therapy is essentially feeling emotions, and particularly big emotions from trauma or some kind of traumatic experience, opposed to talk therapy, which is obviously talking about what you've experienced and processing and understanding it intellectually. Somatic therapy is more about processing and understanding how it feels in your body and allowing those emotions to pass through and giving them the space needed, as well as building your nervous system's resilience to be able to feel these quote-unquote difficult emotions that come with a traumatic experience. I decided to do this because I have experienced some physical trauma, and I've done talk therapy in the past quite a few times, and I've had multiple therapists tell me that I'm so self-aware, I'm basically doing their job for them, and so it hasn't really been helpful for me. But I knew that I needed some help with processing this particular trauma, and throughout doing this work, these 6 sessions that I've had so far, so much more has been unlocked. It kind of revealed to me that my body has been holding on to for a very long time, and a lot of things that have needed to be brought to the surface or brought to my awareness. So it's been really, really helpful and really healing, and I just wanted to share some of these things. I have my iPad down here with some notes, so I'm going to be looking down to make sure I'm not misquoting anything. Most of it is kind of my interpretations, they're not direct quotes from the therapist. It's kind of been in combination with other learnings that I've had throughout the last 3 months, but definitely the work that I've been doing in somatic therapy has been a huge contributor. It's been a big contribution to the stuff that I've learned. I'm just going to get right into it. So the first point that I have is the power of making conscious choices for myself to build a sense of agency and putting intentionality into rebuilding nervous system resilience after trauma. So going through something traumatic, a feeling of having control over yourself and what happens is taken from you, and a way of rebuilding that safety within yourself is intentionally making choices. It could be something as small as at the start of a session, my therapist will ask me, how's the temperature in the room? Is the curtain alright, or do you want it drawn a little bit? Do you want a weighted blanket? Do you want to sit in this chair, or do you want to sit over that side of the room? Little choices that she gives me to make. At the start it felt like a burden, because making choices or deciding what I wanted for myself was not something that I enjoyed, and it still is a little bit difficult. But over the last 3 months I've noticed a big improvement in being able to make choices for myself, even if it seems like something small or insignificant. Just being able to go, actually no, I want to do this, and I can see the positive flow-on effects from that in feeling like I have more control over my life. And the universe, God, whatever divine being you believe in, obviously has the most control. I'm only here having a human experience. I'm not dictating what happens with my life, but I do have the power to make little choices, and that's just been a huge progress for me, as well as what I touched on in the start about rebuilding the nervous system resilience. And so that's little activities that I'll touch on a little bit more here with my second point, which is that a big part of building resilience is not forcing myself to feel the heaviness all at once. When working through tough emotions, bringing to mind people I can count on can help offer support. Alternating between feeling the tough triggers and positive triggers to remind myself I'm safe and grounded in the present. That was a big thing for me. I kind of expected going into these sessions it would just be, we're talking about the tough shit, we're talking about what brings me to this therapy session, just really diving into the deep end. And it was not that at all. From the start, she knew kind of rough outline of big trauma that I had experienced, but she wasn't delving straight into that. It was, let's do these little things to ground yourself, let's do these little exercises, and so many things that just help my nervous system feel safe, because for so long it was stuck in survival mode or fight or flight. And to be quote unquote negatively triggered or be reminded of a tough situation, it can tend to pull you back into that fight or flight survival mode kind of mindset, which is understandable, but it's also not helpful for the present moment to just be bringing yourself back into that. And so that's why it's almost like microdosing the processing. Like, we'll start with bringing to mind some support people that are consistent in my life that I know care for me or that can provide some kind of protection, and just picture them being in the room with me, or just picturing their presence, bringing them to mind so that I know that I have people that do support and care for me. And then slowly thinking about, okay, the initial moment where I had this particular trigger, or what this is reminding me of, thinking of that, going, where do I feel that in my body? Can I picture that feeling anywhere? Does it have a color? Does it have a shape? Is it moving around? Trying to really identify and go inwards to what it feels like in my body. And then jumping ahead to when I first felt safe after that had happened. What was that feeling like? Where was that in my body? How did that sit within me? And reminding myself that I am safe, it's just clicking now why that works. And that's actually onto my next point. Okay, hold on. Did I make sense with that, or did that just click in my brain but I didn't actually say it out loud? Okay, so that is really helpful for more than one reason. I thought it was just for not overwhelming my nervous system, and it's helpful to be able to swap between and only face the difficult memories, the difficult emotions for as long as you can handle it. But I think it just clicked that it also is helpful for making it clear that that difficult emotion, that difficult time is in the past, and storing it as an explicit memory rather than implicit. And that was one of the points that I had a bit further down the list, but I'm going to just touch on that now because I just made that connection, and that is really, really cool. So I've got the difference between explicit and implicit memories. Explicit are stored with a date stamp on it and are in the past, while implicit are stored as if ongoing in the subconscious. It can be helpful for things like driving a car or making a cup of tea, like anything where you don't want to have to go, okay, what is the step-by-step for this? It's something that kind of comes naturally to you. It's always readily available. So it can be helpful for those kind of things where you need to be on autopilot a little bit. But it can happen with traumatic memories as well, making us still feel in fight or flight or survival mode. Healing comes from putting the date stamp on those memories to finally store them as explicit. So a lot of times, like I was saying, with a trigger or having something difficult come to mind, I've had the experience of being pulled back immediately to that moment, that age that I was where this thing happened, and it's really hard to feel grounded in the present and to feel that time has passed since that, or to feel a disconnect. It feels like I'm right back there experiencing that moment. And it just clicked, alternating between that moment with the initial feeling, where the difficult feeling came up right at the start, and then jumping to when I felt safe afterwards. It puts a buffer in between. It puts a clear distinction that it didn't last forever. This trigger or this difficult moment, it stopped. There was an end. And that helps it to be stored as explicit. It puts a date stamp on it. It's in the past. It's closed off. It's not enmeshed with my current reality. And that's why it's been so helpful. I need to double check with her next time and say, is that why you do this? Because if not, that's definitely been helping. I'm sure that's intentional. That's so cool. What the fuck? Anyways, I think I basically covered all of that. I love this shit. I really love this shit. So my next point that I had going down the list is going within my body to feel sensations that come with strong emotions rather than jumping straight to my mind where I only intellectualize or mentally process. This was why I chose to try somatic therapy, because I knew that I over-intellectualized, or that I didn't have a problem really understanding things in my mind, but the disconnect for me was really feeling things in my body, actually knowing what I'm feeling. I really struggled with numbing myself or disassociating and not feeling things. It was just all going on in my mind. To actually feel the difference. We do obviously talk in this, and she says, well, what is something you've been struggling with, or how's the last 2 weeks been for you? And then I'll say, oh, well, I had this triggering moment come up, and then we'll work through it. But when I talk through it, she's always redirecting me back to, okay, how does that feel in your body? And when I label it or identify it, she says, is it okay if we sit with that for a little while? And there's no rushing onto it. There's no reaching a conclusion of understanding, okay, this is why this was a struggle. It's not a solution to be figured out. There's no end goal of understanding this is why. It's just feeling it, allowing it to move through. And that makes such a difference in feeling like I actually felt that, I actually experienced it, I actually having built a safe enough space to allow that emotion to fully be felt just makes a huge difference. Okay, this next point has quite a lot in it. I've got the power of focusing on my senses, eyes looking curiously and leading any head movement. So that's whenever I get to the room, sit down, and she's like, let yourself arrive after the drive over. And I just found it so helpful, this particular one, of looking around the room but not moving your head and having your eyes follow, letting your eyes naturally be curious and then turning your head to follow where your eyes want to go. It's a very different way of looking. It might not sound that different, but if you haven't tried it, please try it, because it made a huge difference for me, just having that lens of curiosity in observing the environment that I was in was really, really cool. The ability to choose which sounds to focus on, for example, close or far away. So that's one where you can close your eyes if you want to, but it's basically just listening for what sounds you can hear around you. The most obvious ones could be cars driving by or birds in the trees, but then you go beyond that. What can you hear further away? Imagining, could you hear waves crashing on the beach a couple blocks away? Could you hear the sound of people talking in the house next door? Like trying to really, really focus out the different layers of sound, and then coming back inwards. Can you hear your own breath? Can you hear anything moving around inside your body? Is there any sounds that usually would be missed? But being really intentional with focusing in on it. And I've used this one quite a few times when I've been stressed at work, and it's really cool to be able to hear all these different layers and then focus on which layer feels the most comfortable to listen to, and then just sitting with it and just listening to that for as long as you need to feel safe. And that's part of that, building your nervous system resilience. That's really cool. Then feeling the sense of gravity and air touching your skin. You're just really focusing in on the fact that there is gravity holding us on Earth right now. It's just the right amount of gravity to keep us on the ground, to feel which way's up, which way's down. Pretty cool. Scents being positive triggers for memories. That was a huge one for me, because I've had so many scents that are a negative trigger associated with some difficult memories. And so she had me smell a eucalyptus oil, and it reminded me of home and my family in Australia, and brought back so many memories of like just quality family time, like around the Christmas holidays. It was like a brand new concept to me that I could be positively triggered, and that unlocked so much. On that, actually, I learned that smell has different wiring to our other senses. It's the only one that has its own primary cortex. So when there is, say, a difficult trigger with smell, you really need to counteract that with a positive trigger with smell, because of how powerful smell has been throughout human evolution. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. And then even taste, the texture, crunchiness or feel of different foods, and really being present with these experiences. There are so many things that our body feels when it comes to our senses that we are either used to or just don't bother paying attention to. Like, I don't know if anyone else feels like they have to watch something on their phone or be reading a book or something when they eat, but to actually be present with what you're eating and really focus on how it tastes, feels, smells, it is just a whole different experience, and it's really cool. It helps me feel more in touch with what's going on in my body and building that connection for myself. The next point that I have is that when we get triggered or activated, the sympathetic nervous system kicks in. This brings a rush of protective life force energy. Once the trigger has passed, this drops, and that feeling of dropping can feel very similar to the feeling of shame. This blew my mind when I heard it, because I had experienced a trigger, or I don't even know if it was a trigger. I thought I saw someone who I do not want to see again. And that protective life force energy kicked in, and I was trying to see if it was this person that I was worried it was. And it wasn't. As soon as I realized that it wasn't them, I felt a sense of embarrassment and shame of, why did I care so much? Why was I so invested in needing to know if this was the person that I thought it was? It felt like shame in that moment. And when I explained that to her, she told me that having that rush or that activation of that protective life force energy in a moment like that is normal. That's understandable. When it drops and you no longer have that rush of that life force energy, it can feel similar to the feeling of shame. And it can feel like, because there's a decrease, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you are embarrassed or that you are ashamed with yourself. It's just noticing that drop or that sense of that protective life force energy that you just had. I don't know, that clicked a lot for me and just helped me have so much more grace and compassion with myself when I do experience triggers, to know that I'm not ashamed or embarrassed with myself afterwards. There's a lack of that protective life force energy that helped me get through that moment. That was a little over half of what I have written down on my list, and I'm still planning to do more of these sessions, so I feel like I'll save the rest of it and maybe do a part 2 to this. If you've watched this far, thank you for watching. I hope that you found some of this interesting. If you have any thoughts, I would love to hear them. It was very helpful for me, the process of writing this stuff down and then talking about it and making a few more connections and realizations that I hadn't quite put together. So that was pretty cool. Yeah, hope that you enjoyed, hope that you got something from this. If you didn't, totally okay. Don't think I have anything else to say. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and yeah, thank you for watching. Okay, bye.